But the little green men were Russians, obviously.
Russian soldiers.
Yes, of course, from Sevastopol, for sure.
With guns.
Yep.
No, not from Sevastopol. They were Russian soldiers from Russia proper. They either airdropped them in or they came in on ships. It was not just the Russian soldiers who were already stationed in Sevastopol. Sevastopol is the port in Crimea that Russia uses primarily for access to the Black Sea. Black Sea, right? Yeah.
That we're threatening.
Yep.
Okay.
But when I asked you before, what happened before then? I think it's telling that you're just ignoring all the...
Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? That's good, bro. I'm just chilling, just hanging out. Yeah, nothing too big deal, you know. Alright. Okay, let's get it. Can I bring this down? Actually, let me test it really quick. Test. Hey, what's up? Yeah, bro, I'm just chilling, you know, not too big a deal. Hell yeah, bro. So for me, I'd say okay.
Context, as is usual with this conversation, before you cut me off again, that is the usual conversation. There's, oh, it just happened, right? There's this, oh, it just came out of the sky. This invasion just came out of the sky. When in reality, what happened is Crimea had for years wanted to leave Ukraine. In fact, in 1992.
That's not true. In 1992, is he about to say? After the fall of the Soviet Union by 1 year?
They declared independence. Ukraine said, you better nullify that within a week with the threat of force. So then they were like, okay, fine, you know, we're not gonna leave. And then,
like
and
Chechnya, that's Russia did
we can talk about Chechnya in a second, because I also know about Chechnya. But then, in 2014, in 2010, there was a president elected in Ukraine, Yanukovych, and in 2014, he was. Do you deny that he was unconstitutionally couped?
No, that doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it matter?
That doesn't matter.
Why doesn't the vote?
Even if you say he was cooed, by the way, like you can just give that if you want. Fine. Yeah, the people cooed him. It was a revolution. The people cooed him because they didn't like the fact that he was going to sell the country out to Russia. They held elections after that. The elected leader was elected, and then things continued on from there. It wasn't like the military installed some leader at the behest of, you know, I don't know, some dictator or dictatorial regime. Like.
Matter. Does them being disenfranchised matter?
Is like he says these words disenfranchised. Like the thing is, this fucking loser would probably just bite the bullet on this. But like a good question to counter this would be like, okay, do you think that there were British people in the United States that were disenfranchised after the American Revolution? But I bet he would probably just say yes.
It doesn't give Russia the right to come in with guns, tanks, and material and force the issue. Russia or any other nation does not have the right to come in with force and violate someone's sovereignty to solve an internecine conflict. There are other ways to deal with that.
What way?
Russia did this.
What way should Crimea?
Military force.
What way should Crimea have handled it?
Any other way but this.
What way?
Because Crimea didn't handle it. Russia did.
What way?
Russia took away their choice.
Why did Russia go into Crimea?
Because it's been part of their plan. They want Ukraine. Putin's wanted Ukraine for a while.
No, but why Crimea?
Crimea had
Sevastopol.
Pronunciation's hard. There's ports in there that gives them access.
Sevastopol.
To what they call warm water ports, right? Because they don't have a lot of those, and it gives them access, and they can use their navies and things like that.
It's the home of the Russian Black Sea Fleet and their only warm water port.
And they're primarily Russians in Crimea as well.
But that wasn't under threat.
Primarily Russians doesn't matter. The fact that they have a that port that they used was already like authorized for use by them. That port wasn't threatened, or at the very least, I never heard anything about that port being threatened. They still had access to it. The idea that like Sevastopol was threatened in some way, or that Russia would lose access to. It doesn't even make sense. Like nobody, at least not that I've heard, nobody's talking about that.
Threat, right?
Of course it was.
Why? What was the threat?
Because
they had a lease.
I'll explain to you why it was under threat. Okay, it was under threat for a couple reasons. But when you have the pro-Russian president get unconstitutionally couped in 2014, and now you have this country which prior had promised to not join military blocs, is now looking towards NATO, right? There is a concern that if they join NATO, that you're saying that, but that's how do you, as a geopolitical actor, how do you know that for sure? Especially when you have
I need more than just a possibility. I need reasonable.
You had a coup. You had a coup. How can you trust this new government when they ignored their own constitution? They ignored Article 108. They ignored Article 111, and they disenfranchised millions of people, millions of Crimeans. And by the way, the UN had done polling in Crimea prior to this and found that most Crimeans would vote to leave Ukraine and join Russia. This was between 2009
we'll
and
never
2011.
Know for sure if
and
they
Pew
would,
Research.
The vote they had,
hold on.
vote they had was conducted
I'm
under
almost done.
coercive force.
I'm almost done. A few, like I think less than 2 months following the annexation.
None of this. This is all such a stupid argument. Like, you shouldn't, and I wouldn't, but you could grant every single one of these pieces, and it wouldn't matter. Hi, what's up?
Hey, hello. Do you want me to join in or not? To listen with you, basically, or not? Or just like comment on a couple of things.
If you hear me get anything wrong, you can jump in. Otherwise, it's gonna take like 10 hours to watch this video because the Lactoid guy is a literal Russian machine gun talking point. So every single thing he says is gonna be.
Yes, I understand. I agree with that. Yeah. Plus, I'm gonna go on Wix review of this on Monday, so I be there if anyone has wanted to see like it point by
Would you like
point,
to stream for a
and,
fun?
you
Connect
know,
with.
we can do it there, not to make you watch this for like bajillion years because it
no,
will
no,
take
no,
a
no,
billion
no,
years
no.
to dispel everything. Yeah.
No,
but
no,
when
no,
it comes
no,
to Premiere,
no.
I was a little bit confused because I didn't watch it yet. Not at all. I just not a minute of it. But Vic told me that they brought up the. In 1994, apparently they reinvaded Crimea, and that was like
In 94 or in 2014?
in 95.
Okay, I don't know. I don't even know what that.
Ukraine invaded Crimea, and they wanted to be independent for like 4 years or something like that. And I was like I might be actually tripping. Like it took me. I don't really know for a long time because it took me like at least 20 minutes to understand what they were talking about, because in 1991 Crimea voted to be part of Ukraine and to be independent from Russia. The voting was 56%, so not like a huge majority, but still counts. And it was agreed upon between Russia and Ukraine and Crimea that Crimea is part of Ukraine. So and also one of the things that you mentioned was like apparently Romania was that there was like this situation very local. I don't know how the fuck he knows about it. It must be like him straight up using Russian propaganda. But there was like this. You said you don't know if that was threatened the port with Russia, but it actually was a little bit for a while. For example, in '94, there was like a deal with the West memorandum, and it was again said that Crimea is part of Ukrainian sovereignty, and Russia and Ukraine signed it, and as well as other countries. But then in '95, there was like a coup attempt, basically, by the dude called Mishkov. He was trying to sabotage the Crimea from the side, basically doing this like we are actually going to be with Russia, we belong to Russia, and undermine Ukrainian authority, essentially, right? And Ukraine then intervened, and they thought that were made themselves building that's the invasion they actually referred to. That's what happened.
Okay.
And Mishkov didn't even have local support. Most people were at the time cool with being in Ukraine, and they just wanted things to settle. The thing they did want was autonomy. And autonomy they were given right after this whole situation was in '97. Also, they said we suspended their constitution, which is not true because we suspended constitution altogether because it was USSR constitution. And we came up with our new one, the Ukrainian one.
I don't think I want to take the Frosty here.
Crimea afterwards was given autonomy. And also in '97, we made a treaty with Russia which was like Friendship of People Black Sea Fleet Treaty, something like that, in '97. And that treaty allowed Russia to have 80% control of the Black Sea Fleet in Crimea. And it allowed them 80% of control and also to have all the bases on Earth they want there, which they did have. If you walk Crimea back in the day as a skid, the island is full of like Russian bases, right? With only ask from us that Crimea remains Ukraine and Russia will respect the sovereignty, and then they can use fucking all the ports they want, and 80% of the thing is theirs. We signed that agreement with them in '97. So all of that is crap. It's bullshit. Straight up. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thanks for the info.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Be
Yeah,
careful.
I think
might
it's
be able to
saying
jump,
that
yeah.
my
Too
chest.
irritated.
All right,
Yeah, bye-bye.
be careful.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Of Crimea. And,
It's saying I can fucking
less than
craft
2
that
months
shit.
following the annexation of Crimea into Russia.
It's such a small upgrade. It's
What I'm
not really a
saying
big
prior to
deal.
this is that, like, even if
0.6,
you grant
0.6,
literally
kind of
every single
1%
one of these points,
increase.
which you shouldn't. You grant every single one of these points, and it still wouldn't justify another country invading to start taking over territory. Like, it
It's
just
not
wouldn't.
really that.
The strongest argument you could possibly defend
Big.
would be them taking over Crimea only. Even that, I don't think in a reasonable debate you'd be able to defend that. But to start taking over parts of the rest of the country is just none of this is. Even if you grant that there was a revolution, even if you grant that it was a coup, even if you grant that it was constitutional, even if you grant that they, a new leader came in or whatever, like you can't from that point say, okay, so that means another country should be able to invade and start stealing land. That's just you can't get there. There's no way you could do that.
Pew Research went in and did a poll, and 88% of Crimeans said that Kiev should recognize the results. Only 4% said no, which is relatively in line with what the referendum was.
Again, they were occupied by Russian forces.
Okay, so
don't say no.
When they weren't occupied, they wanted to leave Ukraine and join Russia. What about that?
In 95, he said, or 94?
Kind of surprised no one wants to do a rookie. Right? Maybe we'll just see if we can get into a key.
Because Ukraine wouldn't let
you
them vote.
You shouldn't even have this. You don't. That's just. I'm sorry, but this is not how sovereignty works. You just don't ever. This is a red herring argument, and you should never fall for this argument. In the United States of America, if 75% of people in Arizona voted to leave the USA, you wouldn't allow them to do it, number one, and you wouldn't even make the statement, well, isn't their sovereignty being violated by not allowing, like, aren't they being deprived? You would just never ever grant any of these arguments because this is a ridiculous argument. It's a ridiculous argument.
And
They tried to have a vote in 1992, and Ukraine said no.
More than just someone calling you up on the phone, like, "Hey, buddy, do you want to secede from your country? You need an actual constitutional Congress. You need something actual."
Would
there."
Ukraine
But
let
again,
them have that vote?
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
none of this justifies Russia coming in.
Of course it does.
And of course it
Of
does
course
not.
it
We
does.
would never let that happen in any other situation.
Ukraine didn't
Russia
let them
did
vote.
not let that happen.
no,
when
What is the law? What is the standard by which you have to allow a group of people a vote to leave your country? I'm sorry, what are we talking about here? This is just not a thing. We wouldn't make this demand of anybody. We certainly wouldn't follow it on our own.
Chechnya tried to secede,
Oh,
right?
no.
When the Warsaw Pact broke apart, when the USSR broke
Damn,
apart.
I actually can't get
Chechnya
invited. That's
said,
crazy.
Okay, we want to
That
go
was
away
bomb.
too. At the time, they were like, no
Oh, there it
way,
is.
Jose, and they came in with military force.
You support that?
Stomped them down. I absolutely do not, because of the way they handled that.
Whoa, why don't you support
Because of
that?
again, as if you listen to that, because of the way they handled that.
What way did they handle it then?
Oh no, because walking into a terrible. The reason why you can oppose Russia, because I know the next 20 minutes this argument's going to be. Wick is about to say a whole bunch of stuff about how brutal it was when Russia came in to quash the Chechnyan rebellions or whatever, or to maintain control of that territory. And then Lactoid is going to try to draw a one-to-one comparison between what was happening in Donetsk and Luhansk and say, oh, well, there were a lot of people dying down here and it was a civil war as well. So Russia had the right to come in and save those people too. You know, if you think that the Chechens should have broken off from Russia, then why can't the people in the Donbass break off from Ukraine? The actual answer is that the dissolution of the Soviet Union saw a whole bunch of flux in terms of countries being created or countries breaking off from what was an imperialist empire, right? Like Russia conquered other nations. Some of them joined the Warsaw Pact. Some of them were incorporated into the Soviet Union proper. Others were part of, I don't remember, some parts were like kind of like these semi-autonomous blocks or whatever. But when the Soviet Union was breaking up, there were a whole bunch of people who were like, oh, well, are we going to be a country? Are we not going to be a country? Who's, who knows? And nobody was really sure at the time. After the Soviet Union left, after the Soviet Union was gone from the world stage, from 91 onwards, everybody looked to see what existed, and then people started signing recognition treaties and everything else, and then you had your countries. You wouldn't compare in 91 the dissolution of the Soviet Union and say those rules apply going forward, that any country can break apart from anything. Like the world was kind of set. The European countries were set after 91 when the countries existed, and then people agreed where they were, and then that was it. Like that's it, to say that, yeah, that the breakup of the Soviet Union was a thing, but then after it broke up, you're done. You can't just have other countries breaking up all the time constantly. Just imagine the world, what it would look like if we had Yugoslavias everywhere that were constantly breaking apart and new countries were being formed and destroyed. Like, it just wouldn't work. It would be crazy.
Those human violations of their rights.
The Ukrainians do that in the Donbass?
There it is, yeah.
No? So
No,
There was no
Amnesty said-
civil war. There was no bring out the maps showing where the bombs drop, and there weren't people dying, and this is where we're going with this.
Why?
When Amnesty says that they were committing war crimes by
there it
firing
is.
unguided rockets in civilian
Into
areas,
civilian
that's
areas
just
and killing
thousands of people
civilians.
dead.
There
Who
you
cares?
go.
So the
Yeah.
go ahead.
You brought up the vote from Crimea, and so I've been looking into it. I have a question for you. In the 2010 election in Ukraine, which you mentioned,
Yes.
Viktor Yanukovych won 49.55% against Yulia Tymoshenko, who won 46.03.
Yes.
The country was split from the east to the west,
Yep.
with the west largely, and this includes Kiev, largely being in favor of Tymoshenko, and the right being in favor of Yanukovych.
I love that he intentionally calls it. So Kiev, I think, is a more Russian pronunciation, and Kyiv is a more Ukrainian pronunciation. I probably call it Kiev sometimes, just have it. It's just because I speak about Kiev so much. But you know that Tim Pool, like every single day, is like in the mirror, like Kiev, 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 the Ukraine, Kiev, Kiev. You know that he's rehearsing that so that he doesn't give any ground to these filthy Ukrainians, so he can stick it to Zelensky, be faithful to his Russian compatriots.
Yanukovych had his political opposition after this arrested and held for 3 years in prison.
Okay.
2010?
Yes.
In 2011, Yulia Tymoshenko was arrested for what is largely seen as political persecution and held for 3 years until Yanukovych was ousted.
Sure. And so
And not to mention,
and hold on,
during
let me respond to that.
Euromaidan, right?
Okay,
The
hold
brutalities that you.
Now, if you wanted to get, you shouldn't bring this up, and it would be a bad debate tactic. But if you think that Yanukovych is a bad guy, you should ask Tim Pool, hey, you remember that one weird dude in the United States, Paul Manafort, who got all those weird charges? What were those charges for? Who was he helping internationally that he didn't declare? Oh shit. Was that Yanukovych? Isn't that crazy how connected that is?
It kind of Yanukovych was perpetrated on his.
Do you have a better argument against that than that would be crazy? Against what? Countries constantly dissolving and forming new countries all the time? It would be a threat to economic and geopolitical stability. Economic stability because it would be impossible to form trade agreements and because trade would be disrupted constantly due to the rewriting of rules and the military, battles going on all over the place. And geopolitically, it would be unstable because new governments would come into existence and would go out of existence. And it would be hard to keep track of like who's elected or who's a dictator or who's got sovereignty over what. It would be a disaster. It would be a clusterfuck. I didn't know I had to spell that out. Sorry. Yes.
People. 108 protesters killed. Brutal.
And 13 cops were killed. So in terms of
I love that he throws that in there. And they kill the cops.
the political, oppression that came following Yanukovych's election, I'm sure there's criticisms you can levy. I know Yanukovych had issues with corruption. I know that, in fact, Ukraine now has issues with corruption. But just because there are those issues doesn't mean that you can trample upon your own constitution to remove a president and not expect separatism in the places, as you brought up, in the places that overwhelmingly voted for Yanukovych. In Crimea and the Donbass, it was overwhelmingly pro-Yanukovych. Do their votes not matter? Do you just get to replace this president
Let me
in
ask you this,
2014
Lactoid.
with somebody that was not democratically elected, ignore your own constitution? This is what led to the separatism.
Wait, I actually super don't know the answer to this question. In the American Revolution, was there ever a vote or anything among all the colonists to, like, sign the Declaration of Independence? Was that ever a thing? There was, right? Was there? There wasn't. Was there? Yes, there was. Oh, was there? Okay, I don't even know. Was there like a, what was that called? The Constitutional Convention. Yeah, sure, but like, was this done in a way that like there were equal representations from all the people? Also, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. No, hold on. Fuck you. Constitutional Convention was after, because we had the Articles of Confederation before that. That was after the Revolution. That was after breaking off. For the Declaration of Independence, we broke off from the Crown, from England. Was adopted unanimously by the 56 delegates to the Second Continental Congress, who convened at Pennsylvania State House, later renamed Independence Hall, in the colonial area, or carrier capital of Philadelphia. Okay, so they had delegates. I'm assuming they were elected in some way. Okay.
And the separatism and this new power structure in Ukraine, and this new power structure and separatism is what led to the 2022 invasion.
Well, let me ask you this. Had the U.S. backed and really wanted, right, Yanukovych, political enemy that he jailed for 3 years unconstitutionally, right? If he had wanted, if we...
Well, we don't know the
Also, just make Lactord own it, because I'd like to watch him fucking squirm. How does he feel about the fact that Donald Trump keeps trying to recognize... Is it Guaido? Dude, and also, I mix up Venezuela and Bolivia all the fucking time. Where Trump kept trying to... He invited this guy, I think, to one of his State of the Unions, didn't he? An alternate leader from one of these countries. Fuck. Was it Bolivia? I don't remember, bro. Fuck South America. We don't do south of the equator here. It was Venezuela. Guaido is a Venezuelan politician, opposition figure. Trump was trying to get this guy to like be the president for some period of time, and we even invited him, I think, to the I think it was to it was either joint address or it was the State of the Union. I wonder if he is okay with that, with trying to recognize some new leader of some other country or whatever. But
details
really
about that, and you don't either.
If he had really wanted, no, go with the hypothetical that what Tim just said was accurate and that was seen and pretty much seen as shady, as illegal, etc. So go with it. Run with it.
so I'm mixing up Venezuela and Bolivia all the time. It drives me fucking crazy. They're coded as the exact same country in my head. I'm so sorry. Which one was Hugo Chavez from? That must have been Venezuela, right? Fuck. Chavez. It was Venezuela, right? Okay. I don't know. These places are identical to me. In my brain. They just occupy the same spot in my brain. I know where they are on the map, but I don't know. They occupy the same spot in my head.
Would that give us, the U.S., the right to go in with gun, tanks, men, and occupy and seek to annex parts of Ukraine? Would that have given us the right to do that? I don't believe you. I don't believe you if you say that you think that we would have that.
I think we've talked about matters of scale.
Also, I don't know if I'm the right guy to do this because I suck at doing narratives and stories because I just don't care as much. But somebody in these arguments, we should talk about like what makes America good. What is goodness? Do we have an obligation as a country to support things that are good? Do we believe that there was a good side and a bad side in World War II? Do we believe that? Do we believe there was a good side and a bad side in the Gulf War, in the first Gulf War, okay, against Saddam Hussein? If there was ever an opportunity to intervene in a way where you could stand for a good side against a bad side, and if you have the capability to act, do you not have some sort of obligation to the world, to yourself, to other people, to your own ideals? Like, do you not have some moral obligation to act at all?
In the
Matters of scale.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let me explain. In the event that the Constitution was violated, which we don't know if it was, I mean, we had an arrest warrant for Yanukovych issued in 2014, immediately after he left the country. You do have a history.
Fled the country, yes.
He left, yeah, you can say he fled. It's because his car was shot at. If there's a constitutional issue with that, You can say there's major issues. You can, in fact, even potentially, if it's bad.
Also, just again, if this is ever in a history book, just the idea that Tim Pool was one of the largest podcasters in the United States of America. He gave a lot of media where he defended center-right and far-right positions, and he supported Donald Trump in the 2024 election. He would regularly host debates on his show relating to the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. He also was paid $5 million through an illegal shell company being investigated by the United States of America from Russia for a show that he produced for one of their channels. He claims to have not been aware of this. Like, that set of facts is just insane. And the fact that conservatives don't even talk about it, don't even think about it, but we talk about Hunter Biden because of one phrase, the big guy, it's I don't have an adjective for it. My vocabulary is not even large enough to describe how unbelievable that is.
Enough, if there's enough repression, that
to this day, Tim Pool calls himself a victim of the $5 million scam. $5 million scam. I mean, isn't he a victim? It's a lot of money to lose. No. He was paid $5 million. Oh, damn. Okay.
could potentially justify an invasion based on humanitarian reasons. There is unless you want to say,
Look,
well, hold on,
there are
hold on.
And see, even here he's playing a word game. You can justify an invasion under humanitarian reasons. Maybe, but what about conquering territory? And a unilateral invasion for humanitarian reasons?
Unless you want to say,
I'll say this.
hold on a second.
Oh,
Unless
you want to
say,
try?
well,
You
we
want to
can't
take it?
invade
Yeah,
them,
bro.
even
Then you
if
got to be
what
in
there's
bed though.
was humanitarian
Oh, I'm
violations,
coming.
and then that
And
means
now he's going to say, that means that we can't do anything about the Bosnians. That means that we were bad going into the first, into Iraq. That means we were bad going into Libya. That means...
you can't,
What the fuck, Rod? Trying to get the frames per second right here. Oh my god, look how pixelated it is. What the fuck? Is that better or worse? It's better, slightly. Oh, well, that's why. What the fuck happened here? All my settings went to shit. Alright, so what the fuck happened here? Damn it, I lost the damn setup. Oh, this is social. Alright, let's turn everything to low. Let's bring up particle density, I think we want. Depth effects, we want low? No, we don't want any. Outline mode. I think I want good outlines. I think these are all fine. See what that does. That's better, I think. Slightly. Kinda. Alright, let's see. It's still 80, so I feel like I should be at like easily in the hundreds. Video reflex. Mm-mm-mm. I mean, bro, I can't get projected textures. Silliness may improve performance. Shit, what the fucking key did you say? Said 10 workshop. Alright, so we got 70. I guess this isn't bad. This is like playable at least. I feel smooth, not really dropping. See what happens when I start fucking hitting buttons and shit, I guess. It's actually not that bad. Feels kind of smooth. This guy doesn't have any rating. Am I tripping? He must not have the app downloaded. Yes. He gone. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Oh, so it's an audio indicator, right? You understand? This class you need the audio indicators. So I'll kind of try to explain. So if it starts hacking. Alright, that's reroll. Alright. Blade flurry. That you'll hear like a wait. Boom. So that lets me know my subterfuge window is ended. Because when your subterfuge window ends, that means your next between the eyes will not go on cooldown. I mean it will go on cooldown. So you need to know when that ends. You need to know when to reroll. And then whenever your crack shot gets refunded, like let's see if I can just proc it here. Nope. Okay. I'll try it again. Does that vanish? Nope. Alright. This should be the one. Nope. Okay. This should be the one. Nope. Alright, that's the one, ready? There you go. So you see how like reloads, like it makes a reload noise? That means it refunded all my shit so I can instantly crack shot again. Or between the eyes. So that you're kind of fucked, right? I don't think we're gonna get a key though, buddy. I'm not gonna lie to you. It doesn't sound the greatest, but it's essential. Send solution, dude. It should be like 30 minutes before you get a match, bro. Let's just see what the fucking queue looks like. But I'm telling you, it's gonna be a long fucking time. Player versus player. Let me swap to Sin. think it's alright, right? Yeah, I think it's all good. Alright, so we're looking at a 15 fucking minute queue ride. You know how long this shit's gonna take? More than 15 minutes. I played Soul Shuffle enough to know that. Shit's gonna be like a bajillion years, bro. The text one, the screen is new. I like it. Yeah, I don't. I feel like it's gotta be hard to read, right? I can't tell from my shit, or does it look fine? I probably fuck with it a little bit. Let's see. I want to bring the high delay down actually. Let's do it so it's like 60 seconds. It'll stay on screen maybe. Cause it's red. Alright, let's change the color then. Oh, that's not a good color. What the fuck? Oh, here we go. Okay. What fucking color should I make it then? Black? Let's make it black. Let me make the font size bigger. Okay, that should be better. And then we'll make it kind of fit more perfectly in the window here. I mean, I could do it. I feel like my assassination run so much better though. You gotta remember, I've only done 30 games and I've won 21 out of the 30 matches. Like, it's infinitely higher. And I get so aggravated when I get done as Outlaw, it makes me want to kill myself. And I got my double daggers for the fucking assassin. Yeah. Like, I think I can climb way better on this, but I only did that one day where I played it. And then we kind of just said fuck it from there. The queues are just so long. Can you read the chat now? I don't know if what I did made it impossible to read. I feel like I made it impossible to read. Let me fucking pull it up on my side monitor. Yeah, it basically made it impossible to read. Okay, fantastic. Let's see if we can fix that again. Okay. I'll make it humongous. So we're gonna make the text color not black. That was not a good call. Maybe white will be better. Oh yeah, white's the play. Now we're gonna make it fucking. Oh, where's the fucking chat box? There it is. We're gonna make it like. Maybe over here would be a good place to put it, and I can just kind of. Yeah, this is a play. Check this out. Boom. Okay, I think that's the play now. So now if I go here, I type test. There we go. That's actually so much better. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Dude, there's so much shit on my screen. It's amazing. You gotta love it. And then in theory, if I did it right, I think the old messages will disappear after 60 seconds. What's top left? That's my RuneScape. I'm doing double games, 2 at once. Actually, I think I have it set up where I can show you. Yeah, let's see if we can fucking do this here. This is what we got going on the side here. I go back. We go there. Do. And what we're doing here, baby, we're fishing. See if we can get the chat on here too. That'd be actually a good idea. Chat box. Right? That's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, now we're fucking cooking. Oh, I don't want to stream plus. Look at that shit. Hell yeah. Yeah, because there's so much downtime when I'm playing this fucking game that I'm like, okay. And same with TFT. So it kind of like works well for both. And it's like an AFK thing. So like this mode, since I have this little helmet here, is an Iron Man mode. Which means I can only, like we talked about the other day, solo self-found, basically the same thing. So I'm fishing, because you need fish for resources. So if I actually go to my bank, I'll show you here. I'm like decked the fuck out, dude. I got all this shit. Alright, so empty that. So I have 18,000 of these. 4,000 that are cooked, and then anglers. These are really long. Like these take forever to cut fucking fish, and I've got 3,000 of those just from like chilling. I got a ton of shit. Bro, you can't. All right, so let me show you. Let me say beat it. That's not how this game works. So, for example, 93. So, like, this is my attack, which is 93. It's at 7 million. Max level, which is 99, is 13 million. So, I'm like halfway on some of these skills, right? I have a couple 99s, which is huge. But all these stats you see here, if you like take a look at those, that's all been 113 days in game, right? It's a lot. I'm trying to get all the quests done. I've almost done that. I'm at 158 out of 170. Is there a way to move where this is? No. I don't think so. You got work tomorrow? Oof. It's alright. I'm gonna be joining you soon, but you gotta work off that debt. Put me in the slave mind, you know? Also, I fucking hate that you've got me doing this goddamn solo shuffle. 9 minutes. Almost 10 minutes now of nothing. And I'm gonna get in a match and somebody's gonna dodge. I guarantee it. In like two games, 3 games maybe. That's how it always goes. Oh, nice. So you can unlock the perma key thing. It's a quest you turn in. Oh, hell yeah. That's huge, bro. Oh, that's probably why you don't give a shit if you down it then. That's kind of sick. Then it adds it to all the keys. Hell yeah. Are you gonna start pushing then? When you gonna start going for 13s and shit? That's gonna be pretty fucking sick. The hardest thing is gonna be finding a tank that really knows what the fuck he's doing. I would love, dude. I mean, obviously it's gonna be really tough with the job if I do end up getting it, but that would be so sick getting like a group and actually like pushing. That'd be fucking money. Have like a kick timers and all that shit. Dude, I haven't had a group since goddamn, was it Lich King? Like, and that was like a guild, like it was just a guild group for raids. We weren't very good. We fucking didn't even clear, I don't think, normal back in the day. Crazy. Bro, this fucking sucks. Let me get in the game, bro. Jesus Christ. Look, there's only 50 people in Doringal. Game's dead, bro. How many outlaw? How many rogues we got? Ooh. 24s. We had 21s, 22s completed in time. Which is what? That's like. That's basically 12s now, right? After the squish. It's still pretty goddamn good, though. I still can't believe I got, what was it, like the 14 I healed? I think it was the 14 Ice Bitch. What was it, 2 seasons ago? 3 seasons? Not for Battle for Azeroth? Hell yeah. Dude, there's no rogues. What the fuck is this shit? There's one priest. No, there's a bunch of priests. Damn. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Hey, girl. Also, dude, there's one thing I'm struggling with, which is... Where's the fucking dungeon? Which one is it? Oh, the Priory. So, the archers on this one randomly kill me sometimes. I'm not sure what you're supposed to do about that, because you can't, like you can hard CC one of them, which I do, but I only have so much hard CC. So I don't think that's the answer. But them there, and then the rock throwers on Dark Flame. I'm not sure what to do about that. I'm not sure if I'm doing something wrong, or what the deal is with that shit. But it's like if they just target you at the same time, you just die, which feels really bad. I do though, bro. I keep Feint up, but like Feint, I don't know how to explain it. With so I did buy burst bots. That's the one thing I did buy, but everything else is too expensive. Like food and all that shit is really really. So they're like at 1K per. Where's my burst bots? Where the fuck are they? Consumables, here we go. Right here. So we do have those. Alright. We are officially 15 plus minutes into the queue. And we're not stopping. We're going for 45 minutes. Guaranteed. Which is fine. Like, I don't mind, you know, going into the bank for some of them, but it's just not. Dude, I just can't get. Like, literally, I had 60k gold at the start of this week. Granted, a lot of it went to these two weapons. They're like 20k each, basically, or more. But I have no idea how you're supposed to keep. Aside from buying WoW tokens, it's not like I can sell runs or nothing. Yeah, I guess PvP, it's like one way I can make money, but even then, it's like one token, which takes me probably, you know, 2-3 hours, is the equivalent of like maybe two pods, maybe. Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, this shit's ridiculous. Unless you can like make your own, maybe. Like, that might be the play. Like, maybe I make my own food at least. Oh, you know what? That's what I could probably do. How do you? Let's see. Consumables, food and drink. Where's the fucking shit? Because I know it's like 2k for this food somewhere. This one. Jester's board. So how do I get the recipe? Jester's board. I don't see that. Wait, is it not a recipe? How do I fucking get this? Jester's board. So I just start printing these, I can make money off it and supply myself with shit. Taught by recipe Jester's board. Here we go. How do I get that though? That's 95k. Holy shit. Feast of the Divine Day. Fuck, bro. They still have 849 gold. How many else do I need to make? Holy fuck. Dude, I would have to like... Alright, what do I need to... Feast of the Divine Day. Maybe I buy a WoW token. 200 fresh fillet. 100 shop Miko bloom. What the fuck? Alright, let's see how much this costs. So it's $8.49 to buy it. Then we need fresh fillet. It's 26. That's 400 something gold. Chop Miko. Myco. 100 of those, that's 800. What? Oh, so you need cooking. So it makes 5 of them. I see. Alright, Rod, we fucking got a match. Your wishes. You'll have arguments in. Are you out? I am. I don't know what I am. Oh shit, I need to fucking go to my talent tree. Solo shuffle. Ooh, that was scary. Pause last 2 hours ago? That's pretty good. So I need to basically do alk one solo shuffle before I pass out? Yeah. And I'm definitely not queuing for another, I'll tell you that goddamn much. But yeah, maybe I'll start doing that while I wait for keys and shit. Gives me something to kind of do. I'll have to get the app that shows me where everything is. Okay, what do we got? We got Balance Druid, Unholy Death Knight, Resto Shaman.
Horse. Trinket and Druid.
Oh my god. I got stuck in that thing. I was trying to fucking get to the goddamn druid. Yeah, I might have shadow stepped the wrong guy. Yeah, that was my bad. I was AFK at the start. Oh shit, my bad. I got you, bro. Hit DK. What the fuck?
Trinket and Druid. Unholy Sight.
Oh my god. I shouldn't have played PvP. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm so fucking out of it. That or that guy's not healing. I don't know which. Oh, that guy didn't do any damage at all. The bouncer just kind of didn't do shit. Come on, bro. Well, I got the CCs off. I don't know if I did any damage though. I'm definitely not playing the cleanest right now in my rogue or my sin. Did some damage though. Yeah, Holy's kind of smoking.
Horse.
I'm just gonna see if I can lock him down, maybe.
Unholy assumption. Trinketed druid.
There we go. I think I'm cooking now. Yes, sir. I went crazy that round. That was all me, 100%. That was actually so clean. Mm-hmm.
Trinketed druid.
I'm stunned. I'm stunned. Wait.
Incarnation removed.
Oh. Bro. What the fuck was that? I just got a wombo combo. No, oh, we got him. Nice. Alright. We got the little 3-3 in there. That was scary, though. Okay. Now. How do I get fresh fillet? Is that from fishing? I feel like that's from fishing. What about Jester's board, though? How do I get that? Alright, let's go back to Outlaw. Let's get my gear back on. Do I even have cooking as a talent here? I do. Okay. I guess let's put it here. Okay. Need 75 of those. We need fresh fillet. 75. Okay. So he should be right over here, right? Oh, if he's inside the inn, that might be what's going on here. Cooking trainer. Okay. So if he's here, Kron's on. Target. Aha. Cut. So we need cooking dust. 625. We need crunchy peppers. 115. Granulated spices. 25. And then Kaz, Algar, tomatoes. We need 40 of those. And twin herbs. Okay, we want chef's hat. Okay, weaver cloth. Alright, burnt. Rolling pin. Wait, we'll buy one. We're balling. I want to equip. Oh wait, what the fuck? It doesn't even okay. So I don't even need to do that. That's cool. Wow. Absolutely amazing applicants tonight. Okay, so we're make
My directive is to serve you.
okay. So I'm gonna be so broke after all this shit. What does it want me to do here? Unseasoned field steak. There they are. 15. Okay. 78 hearty food.
My thanks for your patronage.
How do I learn the fucking recipe for this? I don't understand.
My directive has been fulfilled.
Holy shit, yes sir. I'm not sure what's going on here. Meat and potatoes. Maybe I just make I guess a couple extra of the fucking unseasoned field steak. I mean, I like it for the buff, right? Yeah, fuck it. Whatever. Sir Rookery.
Invading Nazi Germany is out of the question. The Confederate South.
What I'm saying.
We didn't. Neither of those were for humanitarian reasons. What were those two examples? We went into Nazi Germany because we were attacked by Japan, number one, okay? So we were brought into the war. We didn't even know about the Holocaust shit going on, largely. Number two, the Confederate South was our own country trying to break away from us. What are you talking about? What? Like that, the Confederate South in fighting a war against them to unite the country is the same rationalization the Ukrainians are using to go in and fight to maintain the integrity of their territory. Like, these are the two worst possible examples you could ever give to support your point here.
Okay, let's try to fucking go harder.
So you can, yeah, if there's enough violations of the Constitution and human rights that could justify potentially
Another country going in? Nazi Germany wasn't violating their constitution. Do you think they went into Nazi Germany because they took apart the is it the Weimar Republic? That right? That was after 21 or 22 that came into being. That's why we went in, was because they betrayed their last, like, this is
but what I'm saying is this Euromaidan was particularly, we have a movement that, according to the last poll prior to the ousting of Yanukovych, had about 45% popularity and 48% unpopularity, primarily in the East. And you had the president removed, violating Article 108 and 111.
I got cucked on the birds.
And you had
That does not
separatism.
justify.
Well, to some extent it does. The United States had help from France. We had a General
Look at what
Lafayette
has happened
come in to help us.
Alright, go quick. What's up?
Real quick, he's fucking comparing intervention with, he says, like, you know, Serbia, Germany, whatever. I don't think they would bring up NATO Serbia intervention. They killed 100,000 people by that point.
Well, sure, but also it doesn't matter because one, we didn't steal territory from them
You
afterwards.
didn't occupy them.
Yeah, and
You
two, there wasn't a unilateral mission, right? This was a whole ass thing that I think that one was before the UN, even, right?
No. UN actually, America appealed actually to UN, and UN said we do not approve your mission.
We didn't want to
So we don't want to approve your mission. You're going to Serbia.
Did the UN vote against it, or did they just not?
Yes, they said they don't want to, basically. And the United States had goals back then, and they say fuck it, and they did.
It was with all of NATO, though, right?
Yeah, NATO, yes.
Okay.
NATO, yes.
It was with NATO. It was to intervene in an ongoing genocide, although Russia claims that here. But also, we didn't take any territory from the country afterward. We made it constant territory.
You didn't occupy them. You just bombed them, and that's it. You prevented the thing, and they gave up, and that's it, pretty much. Also, I'm screaming, like, how are we name the number? Is it like, there is a intervention if something horrible is happening. Something horrible is happening. Yanukovych was ousted. That's it. Like, where are 100,000 people killed? Where are mass deportations, mass imprisonment? Why he doesn't, he's like, oh, excuse me, like, they violated the right of, many people here in Kharkiv, most people voted for Yanukovych. That vote didn't matter when he started getting dictatorship laws in power, when he started arresting people. He arrested Tymoshenko, who half the country voted for. Immediately, she spent all that time in jail. What about their right then, if he's caring about constitutional shit? He escaped the country. He wasn't in Verkhovna Rada in Kyiv when they fucking voted. And this fucking worm is like, oh, of course, you know, you can say he escaped if you want to, because he got shot at. No, he escaped because he violated everything. He killed 100+ people, 500 people disappeared. 3 months was against him, revolution was going on. Of course, he fucking fled to Russia. He didn't fled because he was, just randomly shot at, and then he decided, I'm going to fuck off to Russia. He was shot at on his way to Russia. It's a completely different thing. And also, where is your fucking proof that we did heinous shit to anyone? It doesn't exist. That's why he doesn't bring it up. There was no killing of people in Donbass until Russia appeared there. None.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, these guys don't even cover the U.S. Constitution, so...
Yeah, so, yeah, that's just... how can we fucking compare it with fucking Chechnya? That was a huge war with 500,000 people killed. Like,
Also,
are we serious?
How confident are you in the UN thing? Because I thought I'm trying to read about this now. Okay, because I think there were UN Security Council resolutions that were like condemning stuff that was happening in Yugoslavia.
They condemned Serbia and the actions of Milosevic, but they didn't support intervention of the United States in NATO.
Gotcha.
So kind of so UN was always powerless, in fact, but the United States decided that it was necessary. UN condemned territory and made it fucking United States.
Bro, this fucking guy.
It's completely
Please.
fucking thing. Yeah, it's pretty sorry. It's a comparison of things, yeah, like we see 100% of us. Like who the fuck did they kill in mass? When did it happen? Name when it happened. And he cannot name it because it happened after Russian invasion of Donbass. And separatism as well. Yeah, that's pretty much what it. Maybe I will get figures.
The UK. Let me ask you this: does the U.S. because we argued no taxation without representation, and I think nullifying your vote is essentially removing representation. Did the U.S. have a right to leave the UK? The England? Did we have a right to declare independence?
Sure, they were doing more than just that. They were disappearing people. They were giving people no trial. They were just.
I would be very careful. You can draw comparisons to other places, but now we're getting very contextual when we say, like, did the colonies have the right to leave Great Britain? Did the colonies no, technically they did not have that. That was not afforded to them under whatever colonialism existed. But that's why it was a revolution, right? That's why it was a violent war that was fought in order to break apart from the British, right? But I mean, it doesn't mean they right there, I guess.
Taking them off the street, right? But here's the deal: we don't live in 1700s anymore, and we're dealing in a world that is fundamentally different than back then. And to pretend that we're going to live by the same rules that we did back in 1700, I think is folly. Look, none of this justifies. None of this justifies. And this is the principle, right? That a country's sovereignty matters, and a foreign entity cannot use military force in order to violate another country's sovereignty in order to solve a crisis that they themselves have helped serve up. Because if I may finish, Russia had a habit of doing this. Russia has done this before. They did it in Georgia. They took an internecine conflict that was in South Ossetia and can't pronounce Abkhazia.
Abkhazia.
Thank you. And they pumped money into them. They sent their little green men in there again, their little Russian soldiers, and they stirred up this conflict. Again, remarkably similar to how they behaved in Ukraine with the Donbass and with Crimea and these things. And they use this as an excuse, right, to go in with military force and take a slice. Right? And today, even today, they occupy illegally 20% of Georgia's sovereign territory. Russia and Putin specifically continue to do this, and they play this game. So this idea that if he just stops funding Ukraine, it's not our problem, he's just going to stop, has not been borne out by the fact that the matter. If someone continues to exhibit a habit of behavior over and over and over again, what is different this time? Let me ask you this.
2 times. That's less than the U.S. has intervened in other countries. We invaded Iraq. We invaded Afghanistan. We got involved in Libya.
We didn't annex Afghanistan. We didn't annex Iraq. But that's a fundamentally different pro-Western. And again, I'm not here to support every single thing that the United States has done.
And I'm not here to support every single thing the Russian government has done. I'm not. You can point out. And by the way, I'm actually critical of the Russian government when it comes to Chechnya. I think it's surprising that you're not, because, or that you are. Sorry, it's surprising that you are critical of the Russian government in Chechnya, because the same arguments. Well, it's not. No, it wasn't a genocide. That it was an annexation of a area that wanted self-determination, wanted to be separate because the Soviet Union had just collapsed. But under your logic of the countries are sovereign, we can't get involved, you should be against Chechnya. The Chechnya was part of the Russian government, wasn't it? It was part of the Russian
The U.S. should have gone in Chechnya?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Oh, wow.
Indeed.
Just because of the
Fucking joke.
expense and the kind of geopolitical reality on the ground. From a moral perspective, we would have been justified.
Yeah, it would have been justified.
We would have strong justification.
Again, until the like the Balkans, right? When we went in the NATO went in.
I got a lot of other stuff to do today, so go make this.
Genocide, it is recognized as a genocide in Chechnya. But about the United Nations, I just checked, so I didn't lie to you. Basically, the UN Charter said that they prohibit the use of force, except by decision by the Security Council under Article 42 and 55, like a bunch of states. So the UN supported peacekeeper mission that came afterwards.
Gotcha.
but they didn't support the bombing itself, essentially. And also, that was done basically just by United States and NATO unilaterally. And they killed 500 civilians, which I mentioned, but they also killed 1,000 members of security forces. So, but that was like, actual forces, not civilians. And then they basically proceeded with that until the troops retreated, until Serbian troops basically said, okay, we are giving up, capitulated. And then that's it pretty much. So then there was United Nations peacekeepers there, but your presence wasn't there like as actual occupying force in any way. So yeah. Fight all.
In the 90s, right, and stop the Serbian genocide that was happening there. The Serbians were protecting, right? Yes, that was good. That was something we should have done, right? And when it comes to the war crimes, like we talk about when war crimes justify intervention. Look at what happened with 498 massacre. Does that justify the U.S. getting involved? I think it does. Look at what they've done by stealing 20,000, at least, children, Ukrainian children, and disappearing them into Russia to serve with Russian families, to live with Russian families, and to be raised as Russian against the will of their parents. Does that justify? Does that justify U.S.?
Hold on. You say against the will of parents. What do you mean?
I mean that the parents, they are not allowed to see the kids.
Is that what's happening? Do you even know what the Russian argument is on that?
I don't care why. They're orphans. It's wrong.
They're orphans. And if the parents are identified, they ship them back to Ukraine. They're orphans. They're orphans. It is absolutely true. They're orphans in combat zones.
That is not true.
They're orphans in combat zones. That is 100% true. Now you could say, well, Russia.
Oh my god.
I would never believe this. Although you made them orphans, how do you have a right to take those children? Even if that was the case that you made them orphans, why would you have a right to take those children and then do with them as you want?
There's an obligation to send the orphans to Ukraine. That could be a discussion. But again, hold on. The framing here.
Children should be raised with their families if they're able.
Wait. They're orphans. They don't have families. They don't have families.
But they
in a
do
combat
in
zone.
many cases.
And if they
the parents are saying, give up. Go what?
Last time, I swear.
Oh, what? What do you got?
You just said that children they stole are orphans. This is like genocide denial. It's our claim. I see before the United Nations, everyone, they are not stealing orphans. Why are they orphans even? How did they become fucking orphans? First of all, people killed, the parents were killed, and second of all, most of those children have families. Their parents, their grandparents, they make the application, so they are returned. What a fucking evil asshole! Like, who makes the applications if they're orphans? People are trying to return their kids, the kids that they rename. They rename them, so they are impossible to find.
Yeah.
Just
even
wild.
if it was the case, yeah, why would you? You would never just take kids from a combat zone where you kill their family and just keep them in your country. Like, yeah, the whole
version of this that nobody supports. He's saying, they're just saying poor innocent Ukrainian orphans who has nobody to look after them for some reason. Yeah, it's just wild. Even ICC,
I think we fucking parts here that.
United States said it's a horrendous war crime. They gave a war criminal warrant to Putin and Ivola Belova, a woman who does the mass abduction of children, basically. And it is, it's forcible. Of course it is. They're being taken from their homes and repurposed in Russia, and their names are being changed, and they're being given passports that are, identification documents that are Russian. What the fuck, man? I thought he was just, he's Camilo, dude. I'm shocked to hear that.
Yeah, he's a Russian propaganda printing point machine, yeah. Yep.
Fucking hell, orphan saving. Fuck, it's fucking warm. Well, anyhow, I'm gonna go.
Be careful, bye. Okay, I can't.
Plus, back our kids.
And every month when they identify parents, they do send them back.
they are making
This is
it
happening
very,
every-
very hard
See,
to
you're all
identify.
over the place. First,
I'm not all over the place. You are all over the place. No, again, let me ask you one more time. You keep not answering the question. Does the Buka massacre justify, because you have agreed that violations of some human rights allow a foreign country to go in militarily, right? So if Buka's not enough for you, is them snatching these 20,000 orphans, as you call them, off the streets and disappearing them into Russia, is that not enough for you? What about all the other war crimes that have been recognized by the UN, by the ICJ, by the OSCE, right, by these other human rights watchdog groups that they know is happening as Russians occupy Ukrainian territory, where they are forcing Ukrainian citizens to become Russians, get a Russian passport, and then they conscript the men and send them off to fight against Ukraine. Does that not justify?
Whoa, hold on. You got a problem with conscription now? Okay, we got a couple questions here. All right?
Yes, if you are
Explanation.
making someone quit.
Please. A couple points here. First of all, you didn't know what was going on with the orphans. You were saying, oh, the children are
This
being...
is
Hold on,
absolutely
Wick. Don't say it. You made the claim, oh, all these children, the parents are begging for them back.
In a lot of cases, yes.
And this is happening in the majority or the vast majority of cases. That's what was implied. The reality is they're orphans in a combat zone, and they're being moved out of the combat zone. There's a genuine discussion to be had as to whether or not the orphans should be sent to Ukraine or whether or not they should be sent to Hold on. Whether I let you finish, didn't I? Whether they should be sent to safer places, I did. Whether they should be sent to safer places deeper within Russia, away from the combat zone. I understand that Russia has annexed those areas, and there are people there now who the Russian government considers to be Russian citizens. And I also understand there's conscription occurring. The Ukrainian government is also conscripting people who don't want to fight. There's plenty of videos you can find right now of vans grabbing people off the street, forcing them into the front line.
First of all,
the big reason why this is happening is,
again,
hold on, a big reason this is happening is because Ukraine is suffering from a critical manpower shortage, which is one of the reasons why they are losing.
Okay,
now
here you go. Hold on.
I'm responding. No, you laid out like 8 points, and you talked about the position master.
You keep talking about things, and we keep needing to address them because you bring up points that are just demonstrated.
And I wait for you to
General, no, you do not, sir. So General, the Army General Christopher G. Cavolin met April 3rd, right? He's the commander of UCOM. He's the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO forces, right? He sat down in front of a session of Congress, right? An open session of Congress, and he talked about the Ukraine situation. This is very in this, he testified, right? And I think he would be in a better position to know than you or I that right? Right? Biased.
involved in NATO.
Yes. But he has to tell the truth. Like here we go. Like saying he's biased because he's a NATO general, right? He's testified that you like
One of the things that's this is like one of the biggest indications of like somebody lying to you is when they will trust one side with absolutely zero criticism whatsoever, in this case it's Russia, but then they'll be endlessly critical of another side. Like, why would the NATO commanders tell the truth about it? Why would the CIA tell the truth about it? Why would the U.S. government and the State Department, the military, why would they, for them it's like, Russia said. Well, Russia said that they're doing all the Ukrainians back, which something that was from Yale.
Oh my god.
This is dated March 17, 2025. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine includes a systematic campaign of forcibly moving children from Ukraine into Russia, fracturing their connection to Ukrainian language and heritage through re-education, and even disconnecting children from the Ukrainian identities through adoption. Children documented by the Yale Humanitarian Research Lab range in age from 4 months to 17 years, and many of them have families looking for them in Ukraine. More than 19,000 children from Ukraine have been deported to Russia. Only 1,236 children have been returned to Ukraine. The actual number of children remaining in Russia is likely significantly higher. Yale HRL has identified more than 8,400 children from Ukraine who have been systematically relocated to at least 57 facilities, including 13 facilities in Belarus and 42 facilities in Russia and Russia-occupied territory. So this idea that it's so easy to get back or that this is happening, this is not true.
Ukraine has solved its wind power issues, and right,
Okay.
and
Please.
it is currently
Oh,
in
no.
a position today.
I'm about to fucking cry right now.
So, I suppose my issue with this conversation so far is I still don't understand why I should care about Ukraine. You guys are arguing humanitarian issues. You want to talk about China and humanitarian issues? We can do that. I'm unmoved by the plight of a country that has nothing to do with us.
I think you're short-sighted with us. Again, our allies, Taiwan, for example.
We should invade China.
Why?
Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, these countries rely on us as well.
I think if
China's invading South China Sea, vessels, they're building military bases. Should we invade mainland China?
if they invade Taiwan, yes.
Well, they
have a
they-
bright red
Mainland
line.
China? No,
Hong
we don't
Kong.
have to invade
have a bright
mainland.
red-
We don't have to invade mainland China. No, that's not. No, that's not what we have to say. We don't have to do that. Okay, bro, fuck this planet.
They took over
There were
Hong
mass
Kong
protests
because
trying
of
to shut
a-
it down.
Sure, but the
Hong Kong was a
British government had made a contract to give it back in so many years. That was a legal thing.
Is that the authority of a foreign government to tell Hong Kong that they give up their rights?
The Hong Kong citizens, if you
The
want.
HongOng citizens aren't beholden to the will of the Crown of England. So when the protesters in Hong Kong started saying, we do not want the rule of mainland China, and China sent in tanks to crush them.
Yeah, that was wrong. That was
So,
horrible.
so like with Crimea, should the U.S. now get involved and support the people of Hong Kong and Southeast Asia in incursions against mainland China?
If we could send aid into Hong Kong, do you think we should? If we could send monetary aid to help smuggle people out, do you think we should do that?
the U.S. send...
Well, can you answer my question?
I'll ask you a question first.
Sure.
Right, should we sink the flagship of the Chinese fleet in the South China Sea?
If they invade Taiwan, yes. If they,
Well, they invaded Hong Kong.
Again,
The people of Hong Kong did not...
Did China? I'm sorry, it's been a while. Did China do a formal invasion of Hong Kong? Is that really? I thought that there were like policing issues and other stuff. But did they do a formal, like, send their military in? Did I miss this? I might not have been paying as much attention back then. Okay. All right.
characterizing as an invasion is a little bit different. It's a different context. And
Said
I
the
also
tanks.
said.
again,
The people fought back against it. They started disappearing. So what's the difference between Crimea and Hong Kong?
so in Crimea, there was no contract, right? So in Hong Kong,
That's
the British government
You said there was a lease that Russia had.
with Sevastopol, which is the military. Sorry, pronunciations. My
So the tanks that Russia had in Crimea were already leased to have been at the Black Sea port.
but not
So
to
Russia-
blockade the Ukrainian military bases there, not to lock down Parliament there. Again, the British, as I understand it, and again, I'm not an expert on China by any means, but the British had a agreement with the government of China that in 100 years they would give back Hong Kong into China's hands. And the day came, and they did that. Now I'm with you. China has done horrible things to the protesters in Hong Kong, horrible things indeed. And there might be an argument. Yes.
Our interests, I think, are very much at risk with China right now, considering the seizures, the atolls they built, and their declaration of ownership
Let me
of the
ask you
South China
this.
Sea.
Would you think it's beneficial then for us to stymie China's allies to hurt China's allies? Do you think making China's allies weaker would be in our best interest in the United States?
No.
No, why not? We're about to.
The reason I asked the question is that
I understand this. We ask the question.
the reason we asked the question is that we have
Greg needs to let people finish their questions. Jeez.
multiple conflicts around the world. And my point was, when you guys are debating the humanitarian issues of Ukraine, I'm sitting there being like, I really don't care. You're arguing with him. He's saying, you're saying we should be involved, and you're saying,
I think you need to. I do actually think for this conflict, I think you need to make a macro argument because nobody has a macro understanding or macro care of like the United States anymore. Like, what is our role in the world? Should we give a fuck about literally anything? I think that argument maybe does need to be made. Why should the United States be involved in anything? Because people just don't have that intuitive feeling anymore that we should be. If Russia wanted to really win the war against Ukraine, then they would stop doing lame shit like abducting Ukrainian children. Or what they would do is, every single time they capture a Ukrainian prisoner of war, they would lock them in a room and force them to listen to American alternative media 24/7. It would destroy the Ukrainian military morale faster than any other thing they could possibly do.
That was so sad. I played that terrible.
Welcome back to the Papa Meat channel. How you doing? How you doing? Come on and sit on down because today we're talking about internet.
I was wrong about ReZero. Watching ReZero Season 2 has made me realize something very important.
Cooking.
That your experiences with media and storytelling can change over time. That no matter how set in stone you thought your opinions were before, it's possible to see something in a different light that elevates it more than the sum of its parts. If you told me a few years ago that ReZero would be one of my favorite anime in modern times, I would have laughed. But yet, here I am making this video because I genuinely believe that ReZero has become something truly special that the anime community has yet to truly appreciate. At its surface, ReZero presents itself as a very conventional isekai, with the main character Natsuki Subaru having a unique ability that allows him to reset the world every time he dies. And just from this premise alone, the series plants an inherent idea towards the viewer about what the story is going to be about. Many people, including my past self, had this expectation that the overall narrative would revolve around Subaru and how he had to overcome conflicts within the story using his new ability. Maybe he would have to outsmart his opponents or manipulate the people around him using his superior knowledge. In essence, the majority of people expected and viewed ReZero as a plot-driven story where its primary focus was on the action and a well-constructed narrative. You don't have to look very far for people criticizing the show's narrative or internal logic. Comments like these can be found abundantly online in any discussion of the series. However, this is where I think there seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding about what ReZero is actually about. And from my personal experience of the show, I think I can provide context of why that is and show how ReZero has become a truly profound story of self-discovery. Back in 2016, when I initially watched the first season, I made a video titled The Problems with ReZero, in which I voiced my opinions and criticism of the show in numerous aspects, both what I thought was good and not so good. To give a quick summary of my thoughts back then, my main problems with the show were that there were essentially no stakes in the story because Subaru could just reset the world to get a timeline where everything just went his way. At other times, the show just felt like it was torturing Subaru just for the sake of suffering, with each death getting more and more drastic. And finally, Subaru himself was at times borderline insufferable because of the way he acted towards Emilia and how much he made a fool of himself. With all these aspects compounded against each other, it was difficult to see just where the heart of the series lied. I don't hold the same opinions of the show as I did back then. Looking back now with hindsight, I don't blame myself, or anyone for that matter, to hold opinions similar to the ones I once held a few years ago. I still think that those criticisms are still valid for anyone who still holds them, but to only view that interpretation as the only correct one is dead wrong and intellectually dishonest. ReZero was never a plot-driven story, no matter how much it disguised itself as one. It was, and always has been, a personal character study. Once you view the series through this lens, it becomes clear what the overarching messages and themes of the story are. It was never about how Subaru would have to overcome the villains he faced and win over the girl he loved. It was in fact about how Subaru learned to become a better person. ReZero is a character study about self-discovery, and this is where I think many people fail to see or misunderstand what the point of the series is. So today, I want to bring to light the true underlying ethos of ReZero and show you just how profoundly special this story really is. Spoilers for Season 2. The inciting incident to this season is having Rem erased from everyone's memories except for Subaru, and try as he might, no matter how many times he returns by death, he's never able to save the girl who saw him as her hero. This makes Subaru blame himself for what happened as he carries the weight of one of his most precious friends. Subaru has never been more alone than in this instance. The person who had previously saved him from himself is now gone. And despite having the power to change the world, Subaru can do nothing. He believes that all of this is his fault and shoulders the burden by himself. But Emilia reminds Subaru that he's not alone, and that you shouldn't be forced to carry the weight of responsibility by yourself. You have other people who care about your well-being, and in return will share your lowest moments.
これだけはちゃんと知っておいて。レムのこと、
一人で抱え込んで悩もうとしないで。私もちゃんとスバルの悩み抱えさせて。スバルが助けてくれたみたいに、今度は私もスバルを助けたい。スバルが傷ついているなら何とかしてあげたい。
In a show that throws the audience into a fantasy world filled with witches, deadly creatures, and other mysteries, the most cathartic episode doesn't come from any thrilling or bombastic action-packed sequence, but a slow, reflective episode where characters just talk about how they feel. It's one of the most emotionally poignant and cathartic episodes of ReZero, as we get to truly empathize and understand what Subaru had been through all this time. This is the one singular episode that I would point to for anyone who doesn't understand what the series is about. As Subaru's eccentric father Kenichi begins the episode by waking his son up, we can see that Subaru's room is littered with anime figures and manga, telling us that he's an otaku, much like the people watching this series. After having what can be described as a weird breakfast, it becomes clear what the underlying issue is. Subaru is a hikikomori, a shut-in, who doesn't attend school, doesn't have any friends, and doesn't do anything. He's given up on life and just stays in his room, waiting for the days to go by. His mentality has gotten to the point where he's convinced himself that his life is utterly worthless. For Subaru, there didn't seem to be much point in him continuing to live his life. He had, for the most part, already given up on it. I'm sure many of us at some point in our lives have felt the same way, that in the grand scheme of things, our lives didn't matter. We didn't see ourselves as anything special, and in return, failed to appreciate the things around us. Having a warped and negative perception about yourself is brutal, as you slowly, over time, start to belittle and think of yourself as worthless. If you yourself believe that you don't deserve to live, then how can you believe that others want to help you? Subaru wanted his parents to get angry at him so that he could validate to himself that his life was meaningless, that no one cared about him. But his parents never did that, even though he wanted them to. All his mother and father ever did was try to support their son as best they can. They never blamed Subaru for losing sight of himself and were accepting of the fact that their precious son was going through a difficult time in his life. When he was younger, Subaru excelled in sports and academics. He thought that he was the best in everything that he did, so much so that there was an expectation placed on him being the son of the great Kenichi Natsuki, and from that point on, Subaru lived in the shadow of his father. When you have that much pressure placed on yourself to do well, you don't want to disappoint the people who place those expectations. But in the long run, it can lead to a worse mentality and have devastating effects on how you choose to perceive yourself. You're constantly being compared to someone else, and you feel as if you don't have your own self-identity. You begin to do things not because you want to, but because it's expected of you. And if you don't live up to those high expectations, you're seen as a lesser person, causing yourself to doubt your own abilities. You begin to criticize yourself. Why am I not good enough? Why can't I do this? And after a while, it takes a toll on you. You begin to realize that you're not worthy of other people's expectations, and this leads you down a dark path where you believe that you can't do anything, so what's the point in trying? This is the mindset that Subaru had, and I'm sure many of us can relate and empathize with. It's hard to deal with life when you view so little of yourself and have no self-worth. The only thing that can get you out is if you can change the opinion you have of yourself, which seems impossible. In the first season, when Subaru had just been transported into a fantasy world, he relishes the fact that he can now start over. And this isn't because he was excited to explore the world around him, but because he had already given up on life in the real world. He never wanted to go back there. In this fantasy, he could start over again, not having to worry about what others thought of him. He could go anywhere, do anything, and be the hero of his own idealistic story. But that's not what the series is about. The point of the first season wasn't to explore this new fantasy setting or showcase the suffering that Subaru had went through. It was about presenting Subaru's worst character traits and how he needed a change in order to become a better person. Throughout his journey, Subaru in the back of his mind always thought of himself as the lowest of society. He was selfish, arrogant, and didn't want to understand the feelings of those around him. This in turn pushed everyone away from him, and by episode 18 of the series, he was left alone, ready to completely give up on life just as he did in the real world. But things were different this time. Just as Subaru lays out everything he hated about himself, Rem showed him just how much he was a hero to her. It didn't matter what Subaru had thought of himself. For Rem, he was her knight in shining armor, a person who saved her. It's through her supportive and loving words that Rem was able to save Subaru from himself. And by the end of the first season, Subaru was able to become someone worthy to stand as equals with those around him, and finally genuinely connect with Emilia. Episode 4 of the second season encapsulates this character journey that Subaru had gone through by making him reflect on his past actions and realizing how wrong he truly was. In the past, Subaru thought of himself as trash and truly believed that no one cared about him. But Subaru failed to see just how supportive his parents were. No matter if he was doing well at school, became a delinquent, or a shut-in, his parents never treated him differently. Through subtle acts and gestures, they tried to help Subaru from the dark pit he was in, although ultimately the only one who could pick himself back up was Subaru himself from the support of others. Through introspection and reflection, Subaru was able to realize his self-destructive mindset and break away from it. During his lowest moments in life, Subaru was unable to appreciate all the support his loving parents gave him. He thought so little of his own self-worth that he tricked himself into believing that no one cared about him, when in reality, that wasn't true. Having this kind of mindset is difficult, and breaking away from it is even harder. You start to believe that the whole world is against you, and so slowly your mind considers that giving up entirely may not be so bad. But time and time again, throughout the course of the series, giving up has never been the right choice. ReZero's Messages isn't a cruel story about dealing with suffering and being unable to escape from it. It's a hopeful beacon of light where people can choose to pick themselves back up no matter how far you've fallen.
諦めるのは簡単です。でも、スバル君には似合わない。レムはスバル君を愛しています。ここから始めましょう。1から。いいえ、0から。
When you're in pain, suffering by yourself, and you feel as if no one is there for you, it can lead your mind to a lot of dark places as you begin to convince yourself that no one and nothing can help you. It's a terrifying feeling of isolation where nobody could possibly understand what you're going through. And this can lead you to giving up entirely as you begin to suffocate and feel trapped from the world around. Giving up may be your only option left. But as the series has shown, giving up is easy. Running away from your problems will never change you to become a better person. You'll stagnate in life and continue the cycle of self-hatred, never learning from your past mistakes. ReZero believes that confronting your problems head-on is the only way forward. But that doesn't mean you have to do it all alone. Getting help from others may be seen as a weakness because you feel too useless and inadequate to solve your own